Hi, I'm Terry Brock with TerryBrock.com. We're going to talk to you today about an advanced area of something very important in business, relationships. You know that relationship marketing, what I call R-commerce, is extraordinarily important for people to get along. But we know it's nice to establish those. What do you do when things go to another level and they're not quite a good level? How do you pull them back from that? And to find out about that, I've got my good buddy, lifelong friend, Bob Burg, joining us from his office there in South Florida. Bob, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Terry. Always great to be with you. I love what you say about our commerce. It's not about the technology. It's about the relationship.
Yeah, that's critical. It's that, and you live that, and you talk about it, and I'm going to be mentioning this throughout. Those of you that are watching this is Bob's latest book. It's called Adversaries into Allies. And yes, you ought to go out and buy it, but the reason you ought to buy it is because you're going to learn information in here. It is packed full. It's not just a one-time read. It's something you study. Matter of fact, you can say, I can put notes in here and underline it and all that. Study it, and it's going to really help you in your business, in your career. And so what we're going to do is, since we've got Bob here, and he's gracious enough to say, yeah, we'll talk, I want to go to some advanced level areas here. The idea of when you've got, matter of fact, Bob, you see I've got my yellow pad here with all my notes on there. Are you impressed?
I love it.
Yeah, even, by the way, using pen and paper.
I was going to say that, absolutely.
Yeah. See, I'm pragmatic. I said we'll use all kinds of things there. So what we're going to do is go to the advanced level. And the first one here I want to deal with, let's suppose you're in a situation where you're working with someone who was a customer or they looked like they could be, and there was some kind of a stumble. There was a grievance. Maybe there was something that, the broken relationship. Sometimes you can recover those, and sometimes you can't. And we want to go through that whole gamut of how to discern if it is recoverable, and if it is, how do you do it? And if it isn't, how do you graciously move on from there? What would you say about that?
You know, Terry, it's really, it's situational. In a sense, I'd have to know what really happened and what it was. I mean, I think we always have to look at it from a logical standpoint. What is it that happened? Was it, was it something that they as a customer did that made it so you didn't want to work with them? Was it, on the other hand, was it a mistake that someone in your organization made that offended them in some way, and while you may have reached out and tried to patch things over, they were still in their anger, as I call it, and they didn't want to be reached out to, and they didn't want to feel good about it. They wanted to feel badly about it. That was their emotional payoff.
Yeah, they do that sometimes. People get like that.
But as time maybe passed, that you can reach out again. So it really depends on the situation. I think we always have to begin by controlling our own emotions first and trying to take a logical look at it. Why? Because as human beings, we're not really logical creatures.
Oh, surely you jest. I'm logical all the time, and I mean it too.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. And so, and what's funny is you make a great point. We would all, most of us, would like to think we are logical.
Yeah.
And we are to a degree, but we're really emotional. Exactly. We're really emotional or emotionally driven. We make major decisions in our lives based on emotion, and then we justify it. We rationalize, right, which is really, if you break up the word rationalize, it simply means we tell ourselves rational lies in order to justify those decisions.
Yeah,
those
you're right.
Emotion decisions. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be emotional as human beings. Emotions are a great part of life. They make life fun and joyous and worth living. But as Dondi Scumaci, who I believe you know.
Yes,
Dondi,
yeah, wonderful lady.
And she's really one of my heroes, one of my mentors. I love what she says. She says, by all means, take your emotions along for the ride, but make sure you are driving the car. In other words,
very good.
The mighty person is that person who can control their own emotions and, as we like to say, make of an enemy a friend.
Yes, exactly.
Or a potential enemy a friend. And so people can do things, Terry, that consciously or unconsciously, purposefully or accidentally push our buttons. And while no one can make us mad, sad, depressed, angry, helpless feeling, what have you, because that's really us, we have to take responsibility for it, they can push our buttons in such a way that we cause ourselves to be angry, mad, sad, frustrated, what have you.
Yeah, we choose that behavior. We say, hey, I'm going to be angry here. But I think you're right. We've got to be very careful to exercise control over those emotions because, hey, this is business. And by saying, well, I'm just going to tell him and you let him have it, yeah, and you just lost the business, Sparky. That's not a good thing.
Exactly, and then we have to understand, and so we have to be very careful about that. So we have to be in control of our own emotions. As Zig Ziglar used to say so eloquently, we need to respond instead of react.
Yeah.
So that's very important. But what if this other person is the one whose emotions are driving them? And so again, we have to take that situation and say, okay, how do we first of all control our emotions so that we're able to be part of the solution rather than stay part of the problem? Then we've got to understand the clash of belief systems. We all tend to see the world from our own individual viewpoint through what I call an unconscious operating system or belief system. And the chances are that other person sees the world through really a much different belief system. And we've got to understand where that clash is. We need to acknowledge their ego. Maybe in this situation that happened, emotionally, and the emotion and the ego are very, connected, that maybe this person's ego was offended. Now, how do we, principle number 4, reset the frame? Because, see, if we're operating out of a frame where there's a conflict, where it's now adversarial, now we've got to reset that frame. And we've got to do it in such a way that that person's willing to listen, and and then we've got to speak with tact and empathy. I used to love what Les Giblin, in his classic How to Have Confidence and Power in Dealing with People, he said, what counts is attaining personal satisfaction without trampling upon the egos of those we deal with.
Yeah, very good point.
That's so important. My dad has always defined tact as the language of strength. And when we speak tactfully with someone, Terry, we can suggest things to them. We can teach. We can correct. We can, but in such a way that rather than their being defensive about it and resistant to us and our ideas, they're going to be open to our ideas, open to us. Remember, and we know this, people don't buy based on logic, including ideas, but they buy based on the person, based on the what? The relationship.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it's the human beings, because when we get down to it, we are all human beings, and we want to make sure it's there. And I think you're right. Everyone is a different situation. Every situation you're running into, and then you have to deal with it on that basis of what you've got there. Sometimes there would be cases where you think, I'm going to wish that person well and probably not going to do business with them. Yeah, we might lose some business, and it's that way, but it is a big world. We got about 7.5 billion folks running around the planet these days. And so you figure there's other people out there we can work with. We don't have to have any one particular person, but I think it's important to be able to wish good to everyone rather than get involved in a normal human tendency would be, well, I hope that bad things happen to them, or I hope this or that happens. But you think you're getting your mind involved in negativity, and that's no good. I find the best revenge, no matter what, it really is success. It's legal. You get out and do well yourself, and then you're not harming them at all, and you're focusing on positive. And besides, then you get a chance to go nah, which has always been fun since we were kids.
That's always a good thing to do.
At least to ourselves, we can say it as we think about that. And so staying with it. But now, another area that comes up often, and you and I share a unique position on this, and we both believe very strongly in freedom, in liberty, and basically hold a lot of tolerance to say, you do basically anything you want to do in life, as long as you take responsibility for what you do and you don't harm another. And do those two things, basically anything you want to do. Use your imagination. Go for it. That's something we discuss. A lot of people don't feel that way. Many people feel like, no, in this area, we should control you. And they will disagree on politics. They'll disagree on religion. Those are the two big areas that we always hear we shouldn't talk about. What are your thoughts on that? Particularly in a business context, where talking about religion and politics would be allowed or shouldn't be. How should we react to that in relationship marketing?
Well, again, going back to it being situational, there are certain clients that's not going to come up. It's not part of it. It's not going to come up. It's not going to be a part of the dialogue. That's not what they're bringing us in for, or that's not what you're bringing them in for, and that's not where the relationship is, discussing religion and politics, and it doesn't need to be. But let's say you've got, let's say we're talking about social media, where so much of this really does take place, so much of a back and forth discussion. Let's talk about politics. Let's put it in that. you might decide that part of what you do, part of what you want to be doing, is talking about politics, because you believe strongly that, let's say, freedom and liberty is a very important part of American life, and you feel as though it's something you should be discussing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's fine. But I don't think when you talk politics, even if you disagree with someone, that you have to be nasty about it.
Yeah, good point.
I don't think you have to attack the other person. I think you can make your point in a way that the person understands that you probably both would like the same basic outcomes, but that you have a different way of going about it.
Yeah, different methodologies. We want the ultimate end result. It's just how do we get to that end result? And I think that's the key. And keeping that in mind helps us also to put it in frame that they're not these evil people. Often, like in war, you think the Americans on December the 1st, 1941, didn't think that badly of Japanese. But after December 7th, they felt quite differently, and they came up with all kinds of nasty terms about them, and nasty terms about Germans, or the terms that had not been used. We start calling people names, it's easier to denigrate them in our mind. And if we can step back and think, wait a minute, we're all human beings, and ultimately we do want the same thing. In politics, it's usually we want peace, we want health, we want people to do better. It's how do we go about doing that? And then I think it's a good first step. What do you think?
Well, I think so too. And so, and you and I have a unique situation in which, our politics are very liberty-based. We would call ourselves libertarians. I would call myself a small L libertarian because I don't belong to that party. But my thinking is basically summarizing what you said. I believe everyone has the right to live their lives and pursue happiness however they see fit, providing they don't infringe upon the right of anybody else to do the same. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is you've got, typically Democrats and Republicans, political liberals, political conservatives, those on the political left, those on the political right, banging heads with each other, calling each other nasty names.
Oh, yeah.
Bad. And then you've got both of them who would look at areas to disagree with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and that we would disagree with them. And so I think, the best thing whenever you have, let's say, a discussion on Facebook that's political, Twitter is very difficult with 140 characters.
Yeah.
There's a lot of back and forth. I think it's a little easier on Facebook because you can go back and forth. The first thing I usually do, and it doesn't matter what that person's arguing about or whatever, is to say, and I first learned this from Marshall Fritz and Ray Ransberger, called the Ransberger pivot. And
yes.
And they were two well-known libertarians. And basically what you do is you find that area of agreement first. Mm-hmm. Okay. So in other words, somebody says, well, we believe that so-and-so, 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 mm-hmm. and, government should be able to tell you that blah, 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 whatever. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then what we might say is, rather than, think about it. Usually a person comes back and says, are you just stupid? Are you insane? Are you trying to ruin this country?
You heard that conversation also, huh?
Yeah. Does the person ever respond to that by writing, you're right. I hadn't thought about it that way. Really, I'm an idiot. From now on, I renounce everything I've been thinking for the past 30 years, and I'm on your side now.
Yeah, that one argument, because you said I was stupid, that changed me right there.
Exactly.
Yeah, so not on this planet.
Yeah, instead, let's find the point of agreement. And let's say, and I would even set it up where the Ransberger pivot is to start out by saying, like you, I want to live in a society where people are, and then you what it is that the person wants, because we probably all want people to be able to do this, have this, what have you. Mm-hmm. We just see a different way. Where we might disagree is on the best way to go about it. Yeah. I would even start by saying, I can tell just from what you're saying that you're the type who really wants the best for people. Mm-hmm. And because I want to communicate that I realize this person's a human being with good thoughts and benevolent thoughts. I may not agree with how they would plan to get to that point. I'm a big believer that good intent plus negative results does not equal good results.
Right.
But their intent is their heart's in the right place. So I would come right out and say, that, just from what I'm reading, it sounds like you're the type of person who really has a good heart and wants the best for people. Like you, I want to live in a country where people are free to blah, 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 or able to so-and-so, so-and-so. I think what the disagreement between us might be in how we believe is the best way to get to that point. Now, there's a couple things here, Terry, when we do that. One is you're not arguing with this person. You're not insulting this person. So you're right there resetting the frame from being adversarial to being one of two, maybe not allies yet, but being people who can have a logical discussion. But what you're also doing, because remember, you're probably not going to change that person's mind, but always remember there's a lot of people watching this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So when there's that back and forth on Facebook, there might be 50 or 100 people or 75 or 10 people who are looking at this conversation saying, okay, what's going to happen here? And if this other person especially just cannot get out of their anger and they're being insulting while you're coming back being very polite, showing respect, and making cogent, logical points, these people who are lurking and watching the conversation, and the people who aren't decided one way or the other, because not everybody is that strong in their beliefs and they can be persuaded. They're going to look at the person who, wow, this person seems to be a really nice person, this person's very considerate, and they're making very good points. They're much more likely to be open to your side of the issue. So I say that I believe that when you're having a political discussion with anyone, whether IRL, in real life, or online, the discussion isn't necessarily just between you two people. Mm-hmm. It can possibly affect a whole lot of people, and some of these people listening may be people who, again, they're influencers and they're just looking to embrace something that is congruent with their beliefs.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
If most people understood liberty, they would be for it.
Yeah, exactly. When they see what is there. And the whole point is to understand the person as a person. Understand where we are and the commonalities we have. If we can address that. That works in business. That works in real life. It works in whatever we're doing. That we connect with those people at a human level first. And then we resist that natural, I guess, caveman style of get my club and I'll beat them to death over the head with this information that I have or what I heard. Well, what matters is we connect with them. As you do so well, Bob, you've taught us this for years of being a go-giver, someone who is giving to others and helping. As your books talk about that, the books that you and John David Mann have written and have done very well, these are the kind of principles that I think work. And it's a pragmatic way of doing it too. From a business point of view, you do better in business when you help people that way.
Yeah, when you the whole point of the Go-Giver, really, of the book and the methodology and the philosophy is that in a free market-based economy where nobody has to do business with you, you're much better off really genuinely and authentically shifting your focus from yourself to the other person. Mm-hmm. How can I provide value to this person? See, in the basically free market country which we're in, by and large, other than in cases of cronyism, which is not free market, and
right.
other areas in which rules are made which don't respect people's freedom, but to the degree that people can freely trade with one another, the key is that nobody has to buy from you. They're not going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet, and they're not going to buy from you because you want to buy a new car or for whatever reason.
Yeah.
They're going to buy from you because they feel they are going to receive more in value as a result of that exchange than what it's going to cost them.
Exactly. They want what you have more than the money that they have. So they say, I am hungry. I am willing to give you some green pieces of paper or coins or whatever we're going to use for exchange so that I can get food. I want the food more than I want these pieces of paper. And that's the way the market works. Your friend and mine that we both loved and we miss him greatly taught me that very well, Harry Brown, who was a wonderful man, and he said it was such a wonderful, enlightening day when he realized that nobody owes him anything. even being nice to him. And so he had to change his way of thinking to say, I'm going to help other people. I'm going to go out of my way so that then they will find value in dealing with me. And when Harry saw that, it changed his life. And as I think about it, I realized, several years ago, that's exactly it. Focus on what can I do to help that other person. It's the strange thing about life. You only get what you want when you can help enough other people get what they want, as our also dear friend Zig Ziglar would say, said so well, that we know that's the way the world works. And because we're thinking we breathe for ourselves, we eat for ourselves only, unless you're pregnant, and you're going to sleep only for yourself. That's just the way our world works. And we talk in our intrapersonal communication is to us. And so we have to break out of that natural way of looking only at the world from our point of view and understand it from that other person's point of view.
Exactly.
And when we can do that, that's where the real breakthroughs come. And that's something that I see very, very important in what you do in your life and in your work, and that people are able to see and work with it. Well, what would you say to the person who is listening to this and they're watching and they're going, yeah, but I've got this really tough situation and the client said this or they said that and I'm right, they're wrong, and it's not working for me. What would you say to that person watching this now?
Well, it depends. What is it that you want from that relationship? Do you want to do business with that person? Are you in a position where you need that business, and as such, that's really good motivation for you to understand this from the other person's point of view. The best way to really be able to influence someone is to understand, to do your best to understand where they're coming from, to understand what they're thinking. Now, of course, we're different people, so we don't know what they're thinking, but we can ask.
Yes.
And we can ask, and then we can listen.
Yeah. You see, that's a key question right there. Instead of going in talking, say, hi, I'm wonderful. I got stuff for you. Here, buy my stuff. Here's my watch. You got to buy this. It's really good. And given all the features, step back and go, hey, let's talk to them. Let's ask questions, find out what they're doing, where are they hurting, where are their opportunities, where are their possibilities. Our mutual friend Randy Gage has got a book coming out where he talks about them not just look at solving the problem, but look at opportunities. What new opportunities are there and what that we can create. And that requires you got to ask questions, you got to listen and be there for them. And so really good points there, Bob. I think that's important. Somebody says, hey, I want to get more information on that. And matter of fact, if you're watching this today, I highly recommend Bob's book, Adversaries into Allies. It'll cost you a few coins, and it's well worth it. Because when you get this and you apply these principles, you'll learn how to overcome those difficult situations that you run into, how to navigate through them, how to take something that could be a negative and turn it into a positive, an adversary into an ally, someone who's there. Bob, how can they get in touch with you for the kind of work that you do and the different programs, your book, etc.?
Terry, pretty much everything's right on the homepage of my website, which is burg.com. And they can, if they subscribe to my Influence and Success Insights, they'll get Chapter 1 of the Go-Giver, of Adversaries into Allies, of Go-Givers Sell More. And while there, they can check out my blog if they'd like. They can connect with me on all the various social media. Again, everything from that page that my business partner, Kathy Zader, did such a wonderful job in setting up. They can check out our Go-Givers International membership community. So it's really all right there. And by the way, I love the work you and Gina are doing right now. You have put together some spectacular. I attended one of them, as you knew, and it was just great information. We were all tweeting while you were talking because it was such great information. So I really suggest people look into really connecting with you and keeping the conversation and the relationship going with you, because you guys have so much wisdom to share.
Well, thank you very much. And let me go leverage on top of what you just said. And those of you that are watching, think about it. It's not just a one-time exposure. You want to be in touch. I benefit a lot from Bob. Yes, Bob and I have known each other, and he's a good personal friend of mine, but also I gain a lot in business by following what he says. I gain ideas, and you will too. I encourage you to do that. And, of course, bounce over to terrybrock.com. We've got a newsletter where we can give you good information on a regular basis. So it's like you might have a meal once. That's good, but you need it regularly, over and over. I think, again, let's go back to our mutual friend Zig Ziglar when he said that motivation does last. It's something that you get, but it's not long term. It's kind of like taking a shower. That's why we need to do it every day.
Exactly.
And so we stay with it, and you need that motivation. And for you, as a person watching this, think about what you need in your life and what sources you can do it. Today, we've got an abundance of possibilities. There's so much available through the internet, through YouTube, through blogs that are great. Find the sources that feed your soul, that give you the information you need, and subscribe to it. And be willing to part with your time, your money, and your energy. If you sit back and go, well, I don't want to pay for anything. I'm not going to do that. I want it in, that fast. And it'd be like saying, I want to learn how to be a doctor. Okay, good. Oh, but I don't want to have to go to medical school. And I certainly don't want to have to pay for it. And I don't want that person operating on me. You want to be a medical doctor, you're going to put in a lot of time, money, and energy in order to achieve that. And so look at life that way. Be willing to put in the TME, time, money, and energy, to make sure you can get what you need as well. Well, Bob, any closing words before we let you go today?
No, I just want to wish everybody just a great day, great week. And Terry, you and Gina, keep up the terrific work. And just pleasure to know you and be able to work with you and be a part of your mastermind.
Absolutely. It's great to be with you. And Bob, thank you so much for that. And for those of you watching, thank you for being with us. This is the kind of information you might want to go back and watch it again. Share it with your office. Share it and pass it along to others so that others can understand the whole concept of, hey, let's make the world a better place. Instead of complaining about there's too much arguing, too much fighting on adversarial relationship, let's find ways that we can turn those adversaries into allies. And let's make the world a better place together. I'm Terry Brock. Thank you very much for joining us today.